Hey YouTube, this is Bharat from RegReadies LLC. Today we are going to see how to set up a Grafana server with VictoriaMetrics as our time series database and nGINX as our reverse proxy on Ubuntu 20.04 instance. I'll also include a Telegraf agent setup, which will help us gather metrics from it to visualize them on Grafana. And if you wait until the end of the video, then there's a bonus, that is, I'll show how to set up an SSL with Acme Letsencrypt. Okay, so let's get this tutorial started. So for starters, we'll go ahead and add all the repositories for Grafana to work. So I'm gonna do that. All right, let me just copy the commands of course, these commands will be provided in the description section. Right now, I've added the open source version of Grafana's repository onto the system. If you're using an enterprise section, then maybe you can go ahead and do that as well. That's a different repository altogether. Next, I'm gonna update. And then I'm gonna say apt install Grafana. Yes. So I'll do a systemctl enable Grafana server. You don't need to do the systemctl daemon reload because you're not actually changing anything within that daemon file. Okay, I mean the unit service file. Now that I've enabled it, I'll start it. And then we'll check the status. So it's running. Let's check on which port it's listening. Oh, we don't have netstat. Let me install that quickly. So you see port number 3000. So that is what Grafana is listening on. So let me just check from the browser. Let me just so we'll see 143.198.126.30 on port 3000. Okay, so this is your Grafana. It's on version 8.3.4. It is an open source one. So default credentials would be admin and admin. Of course, it's going to ask a new password, which I'm going to do. And we are in. So the basics are done. I mean, we actually installed Grafana. That was quite easy. Now let's do our nginx based reverse proxy. So before we go ahead and do that, we are gonna do some changes in the Grafana configuration. So those would be, first of all, I'll be changing the domain. So it's monitoring.readies.com. And then I'll not enforce the domain. Rather, I'd say the root URL would be https://monitoring.com. Okay, and let's see what else. I mean, I'm not going to use the SSL from within the config, so I'll just save this. Oh yeah, I'll make sure that it's not publicly listening to 3000. Save service Grafana server restart. Let's start font web Grafana. And as you can see, I've now bound the service to only listen on the local host. Now I'll install nGINX. Once nGINX is installed, I'll just go to etc nGINX. I'll go to sites enabled. There's most probably this default file that you'll have. I'll just open it. I'll remove the explanation so that the configuration is readable and easier to understand. So like I said, we are doing a reverse proxy. So first of all, let's have another server section. So this will listen on port 80, default server. Listen on colon, which is the identical entry for IPv6. Then I'll do the server name, which is going to be monitoring.com. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to redirect whatever request that comes on 80 to 443, right? So let's see, redirect 301 HTTPS host $request URI. I think it's not redirect, but it's return. Okay, so that sounds about right. And then on the bottom line, what we're going to do is we're going to do a listen 443 on SSL. And then the server name, say monitoring.radius.com, then SSL certificate, SSL certificate, key, SSL protocols, TLS1, TLS 1.1, TLS 2, SSL ciphers. These are just the general ones. Of course, I'll be changing that, but that's not the point of the tutorial. So I'm just doing basic stuff. Okay, so here we'll do etc nGINX SSL monitoring.com monitoring. So it will be a full chain CR most probably, etc nGINX SSL monitoring .com .key. Okay, and next comes the location. So whatever comes as a initial request, what we are going to do is we are going to proxy pass it to Grafana. Right. So this is about it for the configuration. nGINX IT, it will say that okay, so SSL cipher. Okay, now it says that my Full chain certificate is not actually present, so what I'll do, I'll just first allow well, no, to root HTML. Now, well, you'll understand why I'm doing this. And then anything else can actually go. Okay, so let's comment this file out. Okay, nginx-t service nginx restart. Okay, so right now we have nginx running on port 80. We have Grafana running on 3000, but we need 443 to be active in order to proxy to Grafana. Okay, so let's go ahead and first set up the DNS entries for the same. Let me do that on the side. Just give me a moment. Three, 8, 6, 30. Save. And the DNS actually should be live. Second. Yep, that's live. So now we'll start with our Letsencrypt. Yeah. So let's first download the Letsencrypt bash. I'm just taking it from GitHub. I'm converting it to an executable. I'm doing an issue, so I'm issuing a new certificate. But before that, I think I need to register an account. -m, that would be support@VictoriaMetrics.com. -home, that would be nginx SSL. Okay, and now I'm gonna issue my certificate. So that's gonna be issue -d monitoring .com -w via www.home. It's going to go to exit nginx SSL, right? So issue does the issuing part. -d is the domain. You can add multiple domains if you want to. -w mentions that this is going to be a standalone verification. So you'll use this directory for creating the verification file that you'll try to fetch from the browser. And home is where all the SSL files will sit. So press enter. Now this is going to take some time for, the certificate authority, that is 0SSL or Letsencrypt, to issue my certificate. So we'll wait for it patiently until it's done trying it 30 times. And then most probably we'll have a certificate. But as you notice on the path, wherever you set the home, it will create a new folder for the domain, and then the key is identical to the domain's name with the suffix of .key. So The only difference is for the certificate, you get a full chain that you need to use. For the key, it's just the name. Okay, we seem to have an issue. We need to debug and see. Okay, so monitoring.redis.com timed out. Most probably the DNS didn't resolve on a global level. We'll have to try it once again, just to see if it works. Yeah, that worked. So now the order is being finalized. We have to wait for 15 seconds. I would always suggest you make your DNS entries before starting this tutorial, because it might take time for some name servers to catch up to global DNS cache. So now you can see we've got the path for the certificate, the key, the intermediate CA, that is the certificate authority, and the full chain of the certificate and the certificate authorities in the full chain.cer. So this is done. Now I go back to my default file and I'll just comment out all this stuff. I save it, I test it. So, oh, it was already started, so just let me restart. That's done. And now I'm gonna check in the browser to see if it's working. So as you can see, there's the URL, and all my requests will now get proxy to Grafana directly from nGINX. And I can also set up any sort of HTTP authentication for this to work as well. If you want to serve it from a subdirectory, you can do that as well. So it's totally up to you. Okay, so that's about it. Our next thing would be VictoriaMetrics. So in this particular instance, what I've done is I've taken a volume of 100 GB and assigned it to like a mount point on the Linux file system. I've just formatted it to ext4. So for VictoriaMetrics, we are going to export, we are going to run the small command that will give us the version. I mean, I'll explain the command. So basically, we are exporting a variable to get, the version of a current VictoriaMetrics latest release. And then we are using that variable to download the VictoriaMetrics executable from GitHub. So this is the variable that we are exporting over here. Yeah. So for this, since you get the output in JSON, you need a JQ for reading the tag name. So let's first install JQ. And let's just try this command first so that you can see what it looks like. So that's a lot of JSON. So now if I just pipe and put JQ and I try to read tag name, so tags are mostly like releases. As you can see, it's v172.0. So we are going to, try to export this to the n variables and just download it straight away. Now, I have the VictoriaMetrics zip here. So I'm going to -nxbf VictoriaMetrics. And there we have our executable. We just push this to use a local bin chmod plus x, that makes it an executable. And then we make sure root owns it. Yeah, that's done. So now we have the executable. We just need to make a service out of it. Yeah. So let's go with nano, etc. systemd system VictoriaMetrics. Service maybe. Okay. We'll have 3 sections to this file: unit, service, and install. Now installer gets executed when you try to enable it, so the system will push it to where you want it to. Multi-user target, so it will be used by multiple users. The service type would be simple. User would be root. You don't need to even specify this if you don't want to. So restart on failure. The restart seconds will be 5. Now to start this, what we do is we have an exec start is equal to user local bin VictoriaMetrics prod. That is the location of the executable. And then you give this storage path, which would be mnt VictoriaMetrics. That's what it is, most probably. Let me just scroll up. Okay, I think that's a lot of data. Okay, we can change this later. Then comes the HTTP listen address. That would be localhost on 848. Now, here is something important. So if you are going to send metrics to VictoriaMetrics, and if you're not on, let's say, a private network with the rest of the infrastructure that you're planning to deploy, then you can go ahead and make it listen to the open world, but then you have to use a firewall to whitelist whatever service can connect to it. And then the retention period, this would be like, let's say 6 months. I prefer to have 3 months at most. We don't need extra longevity on the data. I mean, depending on how many servers you have to monitor, how many data metrics you have to ingest, you can just decide, just to reduce your workload. And then we are doing exec stop, which means what to do when we say stop. 65, this is the number of files that can be opened by VictoriaMetrics holiday. It's done. And oh yeah, I forgot the unit. So description of the service: high performance, scalable, time series database for Prometheus. And this should start after network is online. Yeah. So I save this, I do a daemon reload, and then I just start it. Oh yeah, let me just check. Yeah, it was my MNT VictoriaMetrics. So system CTL start VictoriaMetrics. System CTL status, and it's running. Yeah. So that's done. Let's just check. The first thing that you do in Grafana is actually adding your data source. HTTP localhost 848. And manage alerts with alerting. Save and test. And data source is working. So you have added your first data source, that is Prometheus. Now you need to set up a Telegraf, which is your metric collection agent. Okay, so you need to again make sure that you have the proper the repository and all the key added. So let's go ahead with that. We'll just be checking this on one instance first. So first we'll create a new source list. We'll give it the name Telegraf, and then we'll just say Debian HTTPS repos influx data.com Ubuntu local stable. Okay, and that's done. -SL yes, we'll add the key of influx db to ensure we can authenticate to the repositories and verify their packages. Update apt install apt transport HTTPS and Telegraf. I also love to actually track my connections using IP contract, so I'll just enable that on modules. And then I'll just mode probe it. Up to this point, everything is fine. So let's go to exit Telegraf, big. And here I'll just put some tags. Let's say hostname, launching.com, data center would be let's say which one is the data center. New Jersey. NYJ, DigitalOcean. And then what else can we do to type this? I think this is enough. And then we need to send metrics to VictoriaMetrics database. So I'll go to outputs influxdb. I'll just change the URL to 8428 of this one. Save it, and then service Telegraf restart. Okay, and then journal ctl-fu Telegraf. This will give me the logs pertaining to Telegraf. Telegraf status. It's not working. Seriously. What's wrong? Telegraf config. Error loading config file parsing. Line number 23. Let's see what that is. Okay, so I need to give it a space here. And again, okay, something's wrong. Okay, I think it's not the spaces, but the inverted commas that are necessary. Save this and let's see. Yeah, now it's running. Okay, so Telegraf is running, so I should probably get metrics. Let's explore. No metrics found. Last 5 minutes. Okay, metrics are here. So you see the tags that I get to select. And then let's say I'll look for CPU usage. I guess that was not the metric. CPU system, let's say CPU usage. And usefully. Post just mount, for example. Okay, so we do have the graph. Let's just make the CPU total. So this is it. I mean, this is the basic. I mean, you get your graph here, you have your metrics, and they're visualized properly. So that's about it. We have done Telegraf, we have done VictoriaMetrics, and we have done Grafana. So if you want to enable SMTP for your Grafana for alerting, then you can do that by going into the Grafana config, looking for SMTP, and here you need to enable it and add your host, user, password, from name, from address, and all that stuff. So good luck. This is about it. If you have any questions or any suggestions on this video, then please let me know. I'll try to get back to you on the comment section. And have a good day.